In the heart of Gilneas, destiny was a tale spun by the unyielding spirit and unwavering perseverance of its citizens. Proud, stubborn, and averse to seeking help from beyond their borders, the Gilneans stood as a unique breed among humans. Approach them, and you'd sense a distinct wariness in their gaze, not born of distrust, but rather a defiance that seemed directed not at any specific entity, but at the vast world itself. It was a gaze that spoke of resilience and a determination to carve their path in a world that often required a stand of independence. Now, what happened to the kingdom over its many years? Let's start from the beginning. 2,700 years before the Dark Portal, the humans of Arathor, triumphant from the Troll Wars, embarked on an era of expansion. Following the death of King Thoradin, the Empire ventured into the wilderness, birthing new city-states, and among them the formidable Gilneas emerged. Settlers along Gilneas' coastal expanse crafted resilient harbors, but the boldest among them, yearning for a harmonious blend of land and sea, set sail on a quest for a haven to shield their descendants from the relentless ocean waves. In this maritime odyssey, the ancestor of House Stormsong, which is one of the four noble houses of Kultiris, stood as the first to catch the whispers of the Tide Mother, unraveling the secrets of the seas for himself and his kin. The whispers led them southward to a vast island teeming with precious metal ores and abundant natural wealth. Here, some chose to establish the mighty coastal outpost known as Kultiris, while tide sages were dispatched to beckon others to join this newfound haven. Yet on this island of promise, the Gilnean colonists found themselves entangled with the native Vrykul, the Drust. Despite initial attempts at peaceful coexistence, the Drust swiftly escalated hostilities, launching raids at the humans' developing outposts and settlements for generations. The clash between these two forces reached a tipping point, culminating in a decisive conflict that would shape the destiny of both peoples. In the end, the Drust, known as the Thorn Speakers, would join Kultiran society as they never wanted to go to war in the first place, and the Order of Embers was formed in order to fight the Drust that wished for war. Humans ended up dominating the region over time. Gilneas' military evolved into one of Arathor's mightiest, standing shoulder to shoulder only with Alterac. Together, Gilneas and Alterac orchestrated grand expeditions, forging alliances to fortify Arathor's borders and extending their reach to the dwarves and gnomes of Khazmodan. As Strahm's influence dimmed, the power of Gilneas and fellow city-states ascended, shaping distinctive customs and beliefs. What were once modest trading posts and cities blossomed into independent city-states, gradually becoming more distant and self-contained over generations. A significant turning point arrived 1,200 years before the Dark Portal, unraveling the Empire into independent kingdoms. Faced with the naval dominance of Kultiris, Gilneas recalibrated its focus. Instead of maritime pursuits, it directed efforts towards strengthening its land-based armies and enhancing trade prowess. 75 years before the First War, Stormwind sought aid during the Null War, but Gilneas, among others, declined, viewing Stormwind as self-sufficient. Now under King Archibald Greymane's rule, who is Gen's father, Gilneas entered its industrial age, transforming into a potent middle power, capable of standing shoulder to shoulder with Kultiris and Stromgarde. Gen Greymane, inheriting the throne, continued his father's legacy, steering Gilneas towards progress. In the aftermath of the First War and the devastating fall of Stormwind, which saw the assassination of King Lane Wrynn, a beacon of hope emerged in the form of the Council of Seven Nations. Conceived by Sir Anduin Lothar and King Tyrannus Menethil II, the council aimed to rally the kingdom against the looming threat of the Orcish horde. However, convincing Gilneas and Alterac proved to be a formidable challenge, thanks to the deceptive antics of Deathwing. Disguised as a human noble named Davil Prestor, Deathwing sowed seeds of doubt in Lordaeron, spinning tales that dismissed the Orc threat as mere fabrications. These stories gained traction, overshadowing Stormwind's desperate pleas for aid. King Gen Greymane and King Aiden Paranold of Gilneas and Alterac respectively remained skeptical, harboring suspicions that there was more to the situation than met the eye. Even when refugees from the Orc-conquered Khazmodan, including gnomes and dwarves, sought refuge, the resistant kings held firm. Fearing a loss of regional power through alliance, they staunchly resisted calls for unity, causing a rift in the council. Tensions escalated to the point where Gilneas and Alterac contemplated abandoning the alliance altogether. In this precarious situation, a turning point arrived with the entrance of Turalyon, a revered priest from Lordaeron. Turalyon took Varian by his side and told people to put aside their differences and realize that they had the chance to prevent cities from burning and prevent more children from becoming orphans like Prince Varian, if they survived at all. Noting that the Orcs were not merciful people, he argued that the kingdom stood at a crossroads. If they failed to unite and stand against the Orcs, history would remember humanity as a people too proud to stand together and fight for what needed to be done. A people who had a chance to save Azeroth but instead threw it all away over politics and illusions of power. His impassioned and charismatic plea for unity resonated with even the most doubtful members of the Assembly. His words bridged the divides, and the Council unanimously voted to establish the Alliance of Lordaeron, uniting all the human kingdoms against a common foe. As the Second War loomed, Gilneas had firmly etched his place on Lordaeron's political canvas. King Gen Greymane, confident in Gilneas' strength, wasn't an ardent supporter of the Alliance. Convinced his own armies could handle any threat, he dispatched a token force to maintain trade relations with other kingdoms. In a bid for leadership, Greymane proposed himself as the supreme commander of the Alliance, citing Gilneas' vulnerable southern position. He argued that if the Horde wasn't repelled, his kingdom would be the first to fall. When war erupted, Greymane held his armies in reserve until the enemy breached his borders. Only then did he engage in combat against the Orcs, with some Gilnean soldiers joining Anduin Lothar's forces in Hillsbrad and the hinterlands. Following the Horde's defeat, Turalnian spearheaded Eastern Kingdom's reconstruction, uniting rulers to pool resources. However, Gilneas' alliance euphoria waned. They advocated Orc extermination instead of internment camps, creating friction. Disagreements over funding Netherguard Keep construction deepened the divide, slowly pushing Gilneas away from the Alliance of Lordaeron. The scars of war and conflicting ideals cast shadows over the once united front. Amidst the turmoil of Alterac betraying the Alliance and allowing the Orcish Horde to freely move through Aiden Perinold's kingdom, Isildur Perinold sought refuge in Gilneas, escaping the clutches of Alliance troops as they were occupying Alterac at the time. In a bold move during the Alterac crisis, Greymane attempted to place Isildur on Alterac's throne, aiming to secure a direct stake in the kingdom's welfare and strategic advantages through its mountain passes. I'll talk a little more about this at the end of this section, because I was a bit confused about a couple things, but let's continue. King Greymane's motives didn't escape the watchful eyes of the Kirin and King Tyrannus Menethil II. Greymane's ambitions hinted at expansion dreams. A foothold in Alterac would grant Gilneas access to untapped resources, offering a pretext to send mighty ships across the Great Sea. In the negotiations, Admiral Dalen Proudmoore, fearing a threat to Kultiras' naval sovereignty, opposed Gilnean influence in the region. Despite the political maneuvering, Greymane's bid faltered, leaving him disheartened with the Alliance of Lordaeron. The failed attempt cast shadows over the unity that once bound them, deepening the fractures within the Alliance. In a candid conversation with Lord Vincent Godfrey, King Greymane expressed doubt about heeding the advice of Crowley and Godfrey regarding Gilneas' alliance with the Alliance. He argued that this allegiance had only resulted in the loss of Gilnean lives. Greymane revealed his intention to withdraw from the Alliance, sealing off Gilneas from the outside world. As he examined the map, the decision to construct a formidable wall closing off borders would intersect with the lands of a respected nobleman, Lord Darius Crowley. The mountains on Crowley's lands provided a natural barrier for the wall's construction. The completion of this wall would effectively separate Pyrewood Village and Ambermill from the rest of Gilneas. Greymane was confident that Crowley, despite the impact on his lands, would comprehend the necessity of this decision. Given Gilneas' self-sufficiency and minimal dependency on the Alliance for resources, Greymane made it clear that aiding the other nations held little interest for him. The imminent changes signaled a shift towards Gilneas embracing isolation and self-reliance. So I wanted to talk about Isildur real quick, the whole Alterac deal. Originally what happened was that Perinold essentially betrayed the Alliance and let the Orcs freely walk through Alterac in exchange to ensure that his people weren't harmed. So they didn't try and fight the Horde, they didn't do anything, they didn't signal the Alliance saying that the Horde is walking through. Now, Aiden Perinold was the king at the time, and he approved that, and he was the one who actually sent a letter to Doomhammer, who was war chief at the time, to organize that, and that's what happened. Now, later on, gets found out, and the Alliance isn't very happy, surprising. It does mention that Gen supported Isildur to take control of Alterac, but King Tyrannus was wanting to give it to Lord Prestor, but those plans were later abandoned when Prestor quote-unquote disappeared. And since Prestor was Deathwing, really what happened was Deathwing was defeated in Grim Battle. But I couldn't find anything specifically talking about why Isildur was forced to leave under fear of the martial law, because I didn't see anything specifically saying that he was complacent in his uncle's treachery with helping the Orcs. So I'm not sure if I just missed something or what, but I just didn't see anything specifically saying that he actually helped his uncle with it It might have been because he was going to be the new royalty, but I'm not 100% sure, so yeah. Either way, that's what it says, so I went with it. And I did try and find it, but I just couldn't find anything specifically saying why he was running and why he had to hide inside Gilneas and take refuge there to avoid the martial law, since I didn't see anything specifically saying that he did anything knowingly wrong. Either way, let's go on to the next section. Years later, following the Second War, the Alliance of Lordaeron remained oblivious to the emergence of death cults within their borders. However, a series of events, including Quothlas's departure due to grievances over human leadership and Thrall liberating orcs from internment camps, promoted Gilneas to sever ties with the Alliance. King Greymane, seeking to shield his nation from what he perceived as other people's problems, initiated the construction of the Greymane Wall, completing it before the onset of the Third War. When the Scourge laid siege to Lordaeron, King Greymane sealed off the majority of Gilneas behind the wall, isolating the nation from the outside world. The natural barriers of high cliffs and treacherous reefs fortified Gilneas both by land and sea. As the undead Scourge wreaked havoc on neighboring lands, King Greymane, unmoved by pleas from even human refugees, adamantly refused to assist anyone on the outside of the wall. The fall of Lordaeron further solidified his belief that isolation was the right path for Gilneas. As planned, the wall separated the lands of Lord Darius Crowley, including Pyrewood Village and Ambermill. In an act of defiance, Lord Crowley dispatched the Gilneas Brigade to join Lady Jaina Proudmoore's human expedition in Kalimdor. Despite the internal conflict, the Gilneas Brigade gained renown for their valor in the face of the Burning Legion. As the Scourge swept through Silverpine Forest, the folks of Pyrewood faced a closed Greymane Wall, shutting them off from refuge. Determined to survive, they embarked on the Seawolf, aiming for Stormwind City. However, a twist of fate sent their ship astray in a storm, leaving them adrift in the vast Great Sea for weeks. Another tempest struck, leading to a shipwreck on the mysterious shores near Black Rook Hold's ancient fortress. With their vessel beyond repair and the land offering abundance, they seized the opportunity to establish a new home. Thus, the village of Bradensbrook rose on the shores of this mysterious island, a testament to resilience and adaptability in the face of unforeseen challenges. At the peak of their strength, the Scourge launched an unrelenting assault on the Greymane Wall, casting a dire shadow over all of Gilneas. Starting with a modest number, their ranks swelled over time, showing no signs of relenting. King Greymane's armies valiantly defended the wall for days against the overwhelming sea of undead hordes. However, the unyielding Scourge replenished their forces relentlessly, creating a seemingly insurmountable challenge. Fearing an imminent breach, King Greymane made a difficult decision. The gates were flung open and Gilnean soldiers surged from Gilneas into Silverpine Forest. In a tragic turn, the Scourge defeated these soldiers, dooming them into the fate of becoming that which they hated and feared so much. While the Greymane Wall initially held firm, the Gilnean military found itself unable to repel the Scourge solo. The looming threat of the undead completely overwhelming their forces hung heavily in the air, as the balance tipped precariously toward a chilling inevitability. In a desperate bid to repel the seemingly unstoppable Scourge, Greymane turned to his Archmage Erigol for an answer. To Gen's relief, Erugel had an idea. He had heard of a mythical creature called the Worgen. It walked on two legs like human would, but was wolf-like in appearance. While he didn't know their full origin, he did know how to find them. He sensed them within the Emerald Dream. It would be a challenge to bring them to their aid. But the real question wasn't could he bring them to Gilneas, it was should he. Greymane was warned of the beast's unruly nature, but he saw no other option and they seemed like his only hope to fight the Scourge that were pounding down his gate. As chaos ensued, the Worgen extended their attacks to other humans in Silverpine Forest. In response, King Greymane recalled his troops and permanently sealed the Greymane Wall's doors. Unfortunately, some retreating soldiers, now infected, secretly spread the Worgen curse. Over the years, tales of strange attacks and mysterious disappearances multiplied. Fear gripped Gilneas as the curse, facilitated by the secretive wolf cult, insidiously eroded the kingdom's humanity. The wolf cult saw the curse as a gift. They called it the Purity. In an effort to save Gilneas, King Greymane traded one monstrous enemy for another. For an extended period, King Greymane enforced strict isolation, closing all ports and forbidding attempts to leave. This left sailors and people from other nations stranded within Gilneas, including the infamous Brashtide crew of pirates. Occasionally, Gilneans locked out of their homeland surfaced in distant lands, like Baron Longshore, captain of the pirate ship Heedless in the Northern Barrens, or the notorious murderer Stalvin Mistmantle in Duskwood. The tale unfolds as a saga of isolation, unexpected consequences, and the haunting specter of a spreading curse. Gen Greymane and Lord Darius Crowley, who were once close friends, found themselves on opposing ends due to Greymane's unwavering isolationist stance. This ideological clash birthed a bitter feud between the factions known as Rebels and Royals. The Northgate Rebellion ignited the spark, with Crowley's rallying disgruntled Gilneans labeled as both terrorists and traitors by Loyalists. In a dramatic attempt to depose King Gen, Crowley's armed supporters stormed Gilneas City, triggering a brutal civil war that tore the nation apart. The critical point was when Crowley's forces, after setting the capital ablaze, faced fierce resistance from Greymane loyalists. Despite breaking through the city's defenses, the rebels couldn't overcome the determined opposition. The aftermath saw Crowley and other leaders imprisoned for high treason within Stoneward Prison. After the failed coup and Crowley's incarceration, remaining rebels slipped into hiding, leaving weapon caches scattered and undiscovered throughout Gilneas. While Greymane reclaimed uncontested rule, the kingdom bore scars of the internal strife, weakened and vulnerable. In the shadows, the wolf cult led by Alpha Prime infiltrated Gilneas, terrorizing its forests. Keen to avoid panic post-Civil War, Greymane and nobles organized secret hunting parties during full moons in the Blackwald, targeting feral Worgen. Despite these efforts, the Worgen persisted, haunting Gilneas for years and isolating Gilnean harbor towns from support from the rest of the kingdom. The legacy of the Civil War and the lingering threat of the wolf cult cast a shadow over the once unified kingdom of Gilneas. Following the Third War, refugees guided by Dalen Fordright sought sanctuary in the kingdom. However, their hopes were dashed by the impenetrable Greymane Wall, leaving them stranded. These survivors, spared during the Scourge onslaught, faced a grim fate at the hands of the Forsaken and the Worgen of Shadowfang Keep before Gilneas fell. Haunted by guilt over the Worgen's rampage, Erigol, driven to madness, embraced them as his own and withdrew to Shadowfang Keep. He actually referred to them as his children. There, he cast a curse upon Pyrewood Village's remaining residents, transforming them into Moonrage Worgen every night, reverting to human form with the break of dawn. Efforts to rid Silverpine Forest of Worgen led to the Forsaken eliminating Pyrewood Village, seeking aid from Horde adventurers to dismantle its ruling council of Pyrewood. With the fall of the council, the Forsaken was able to take control of the town. Now, one character I want to talk about before we dive into Kata is Alpha Prime. He isn't in the game, but he is in the comics called Curse of the Worgen, and he is mentioned in lore for Gilneas, so I thought it was good to cover him. He doesn't have an extensive backstory, but I think it is important since he is known as the first Worgen. Now we start back in the War of the Satyr. In the wake of the Great Sundering, R'hllor found himself in the thick of the War of the Satyr, standing shoulder to shoulder with his closest companion Arvel, and the resilient Night Elves, including Belisra Starbreeze. Their battleground was a lush expanse of Ashenvale, where the shadows of satyrs cast a looming threat. As the conflict unfolded and losses mounted, R'hllor found himself at odds with Malfurion Stormrage. The source of contention was the deployment of the Pack Form, a power that R'hllor believed could tip the scales and bring an end to the war. A heated debate ensued, driven by the desperate desire for strength in the face of adversity. The ties of disagreement turned into a tempest of hatred when tragedy struck. Arvel, bound by a promise to Malfurion to refrain from using the Pack Form after a loss of control, fell victim to satyr brutality. Unable to unleash the transformative power, Arvel became a defenseless target. The devastating loss of Arvel, beloved by Belisra, cast a heavy shadow over the once steadfast companionship, leaving scars that ran deep. Now, the Pack Form is another thing only mentioned in the comic and also in the Wolfheart book. That form is when the druid turns into a large wolf. It allows the druid the power and ferocity of the ancient wolf Goldrun. But there is a large side effect to this form. The fury that you feel and the power is too much to handle. Malfurion himself experimented with this form, but when he was consumed by its rage, he blindly attacked his mentor Cenarius. The only thing the demigod could do is put Malfurion to sleep, where he eventually regained his senses with the great tree Darnassus. But ever since that day, he forbid anyone to use that form due to the danger it posed. Now, as surprising as this may sound, not everyone listened to Malfurion when he forbid the use of that form. The druids of the pack were the druids who did not listen. They initially sought to control the wolf form with the Scythe of Elune, but due to the power that form has over the user, they lost themselves to the wolf form. However, R'hllor stood as the lone druid who retained his sanity while embracing the formidable pack form. After besting the pack in combat, he extended an olive branch, offering to guide them in preserving their sanity within the pack form. Thus, he ascended to the role of the druid's leader, donning the name Alpha Prime with pride. Teaming up with the embittered Belisra, the duo embarked on crafting the Scythe of Elune, envisioning a tool to harness the pack form's power. However, their aspirations took an unforeseen turn. Instead of mastering the form, the druids of the Scythe found themselves metamorphosized into the mysterious Worgen. These creatures, driven by madness, considered their transformation the epitome of nature's essence. In clashes with the satyrs, the Worgen's unrestrained ferocity tore through allies and adversaries alike, spreading their curse to other night elves. Faced with the escalating Worgen threat, Malfurion Stormrage, acknowledging the gravity of the situation, wielded the Scythe of Elune. In a decisive move, he banished the Worgen to the tranquil embrace of the Emerald Dream, where they would rest for all eternity. The tale unfolded as nature's balance teetered on the edge of chaos. But as we know, the Worgen didn't stay in the Emerald Dream. When Gilneas was affected with the curse, Halford Ramsey, who was a private investigator looking into the murders in the city, was turned into a Worgen by Alpha Prime. His plan was to make sure that Halford didn't discover about the Starlight Slasher murders and the planned Worgen attack on Gilneas City, along with his true intentions. But Halford joined the other Worgens and went through the ritual to make sure his human and wolf aspects could live harmoniously with each other. Alpha Prime orchestrated an infiltration of Gilneas, navigating hidden tunnels beneath the imposing Greymane Wall. He planned to secure the Scythe of Elune, a key to liberating his fellow Worgen banished to the Emerald Dream. Armed with this mystical artifact, he harbored ambitions of revenge against Malfurion and a future assault on Darnassus. For his plans, Alpha Prime forged an alliance with the Forsaken, leveraging the Worgen assault on Gilneas City to pave the way for the impending Forsaken invasion. Amidst the chaos of the Wolf Cult's attack on the city, Alpha Prime found himself confronted by Belisra, one of the architects of the Scythe of Elune. In the heart of the turmoil between the fall of Greymane Court and the impending chaos in Merchant Square, Alpha Prime laid bare his desire for revenge against Malfurion. He accused the revered druid of conveniently forsaking ethics and denounced the duplicity inherent in the Stormrage bloodline. Belisra, however, countered with revelation of Malfurion's internal struggles and guilt over Arvel's demise, unveiling a pivotal truth. She disclosed Malfurion's own encounter with the Packform Frenzy. This revelation struck a chord with Alpha Prime, branding Malfurion as not only a fool but the ultimate hypocrite. The battle between the two unfolded amidst the chaos, reaching its climax around the time of Darius Crowley's heroic last stand in the Cathedral Quarter. Salvation came when Halford intervened, attacking Alpha Prime and providing Belisra the opportunity to employ the Light of Elune. With a strategic maneuver, she sent Alpha Prime plunging into one of the city's canals, affording them a fleeting escape from the battleground. The Forsaken also sought the elusive Scythe of Elune, yet their clandestine efforts were thwarted by an unexpected hero, the Worgen player. With strategic prowess, the Scythe was reclaimed and restored to the grasp of Priestess Belisra, who had been its guardian. Under the false assumption that the Gilneans and Belisra's Night Elves were stripped of the Scythe's power, Alpha Prime, undeterred, orchestrated a wolf cult assault on Belisra's forces at Tel'Doran. To his astonishment, she defied expectations, revealing the Scythe of Elune's might in a bid to banish Alpha Prime's Worgens to the Emerald Dream. As she began the spell, a disruptive arrow from a Forsaken Dark Ranger struck her arm, causing her to drop the scythe. Seizing the opportunity, Alpha Prime's Forsaken allies closed in on Belisra and her Gilnean comrades. Alpha Prime, seizing the Scythe of Elune, poised to strike down Belisra, found his plans unraveling in a surprise turn. In a spectral spectacle, the ghost of Arvel manifested as a spirit wolf, tearing Alpha Prime apart before he could deliver the fatal blow. Unseen by many within the kingdom, a clandestine war unfolded among the Worgen themselves, a hidden strife between beast and man. Meanwhile, an impending Worgen threat loomed larger as the Forsaken relentlessly pounded at Gilneas' gates. Driven by Garrosh Hellscream's directive to conquer the land for hoard resources and secure ports, Sylvanas Windrunner, under War Chief Hellscream's orders, secretly orchestrated her own plan. Beyond the conquest, she sought the elusive Scythe of Elune, an artifact capable of summoning docile Worgen that could potentially spread their curse to humanity at large. Days preceding the Wolf Cult's assault, King Gen Greymane took action. Concerned about escalating attacks, including the mysterious Starlight Slasher murders, he directed his son, Prince Liam Greymane, to bolster the military presence across Gilneas. When questioned about potentially reallocating troops, Gen adamantly refused, fearing Forsaken exploitation of any perceived weakness in the wall's defenses. To avoid causing panic among civilians, Liam was tasked with attributing the increased military activity to Northgate rebels stirring trouble once again. As the Worgen launched their fateful attack, the capital descended into chaos, locked down in a desperate bid for survival. The Greymane Court, the first bastion, succumbed to the cunning leadership of Alpha Prime, orchestrating the relentless assaults across the city. Notably, the Bloodfang pack, nursing deep resentment for Gilneas, joined the ranks. Ivar Bloodfang's statements revealed a lingering bitterness over Gilneas abandoning and leaving them to perish beyond the Greymane Wall. After the fall of Merchant Square, King Gen took a decisive step. He ordered the release of Lord Darius Crowley and the Northgate rebels from Stoneward Prison. These former adversaries, shedding the baggage of Civil War grudges, agreed to collaborate. Crowley's forces, armed with hidden artillery stashes, joined Greymane's efforts. As the survivors regrouped at the Greymane Court, Crowley and his men bravely accepted a daunting mission, drawing as many Worgen as possible to the Cathedral Quarter, providing a distraction for the evacuation to Duskhaven. While civilians quietly left the capital, rebels valiantly fought until overwhelmed, succumbing to the Worgen curse in Light Dawn's chapel.
Look at what you've become. Those cursed beasts. They've left you nothing more than just another wretched mongrel. Do you even remember what you did to your friends? Your kind, haunting the wilds unchecked, until we found you. They've kept you alive because they still believe you can be saved. To which I must ask, is there even a shred of humanity left within you? Perhaps we will find out soon enough.
In Duskhaven, royal chemist Krenin Darnassus exhibited a remarkable skill, temporarily restoring sanity to captured feral Worgen with his potions. Simultaneously, guided by the night elf Belisra Starbreeze, a secret counselor to Greymane, many Worgen sought refuge in Lordaeron within the Blackwalled. There, they engaged in the ritual of balance, striving to master their curse and achieve harmony between their human and wolf aspects. The Gilneans' respite didn't last long thanks to the sudden arrival of the Cataclysm, which wreaked havoc on the protective reefs shielding Gilneas from the sea. The once impregnable Greymane Wall crumbled under the cataclysmic forces, opening the gates for the Forsaken to infiltrate Gilneas from both Silverpine and Duskmist shore. As the Forsaken onslaught unfolded, the southwestern expanse of Gilneas succumbed to the relentless sea, engulfing Duskhaven in its destructive embrace. In the face of the initial breach, the resilient military held their ground at the Greymane Wall, armed with muskets, burning oil, flaming arrows, and aided by recently cured Worgen on the walls. They valiantly resisted the Forsaken's advance. They evacuated to Greymane Manor during the seismic turmoil. Gilnean survivors sought refuge in Stormglen Village. Meanwhile, King Gen Greymane and Lord Vincent Godfrey embarked on a crucial journey to Lordaeron. Their mission, to implore Darius Crowley and other Worgen healed by Night Elves to join forces against the Forsaken. Despite Lord Godfrey's authoritarian stance, Crowley hesitated until Greymane, revealing his own succumbing to the Worgen curse, appealed as a friend rather than a king. United by a cause transcending Gilnean law, they forged an alliance against the Forsaken, setting the stage for a collective struggle that surpassed political divides. In the fierce battle for Gilneas City, Prince Liam led the Gilnean forces, carving through the capital to dismantle the Forsaken stronghold. Converging with Lord Crowley's Worgen forces around Stoneward Prison, they confronted and defeated the menacing flesh beast Gorrot. The tide began to turn against Sylvanas, prompting a desperate move. She aimed a poisoned arrow at King Gen. In a selfless act, Liam leaped in front of the bowshot, sacrificing himself to save his father and liberate the city from Forsaken control.
Liam! No!
As the dust settled, revelations unfolded, learning of the Forsaken's intent to unleash the new plague on the capital. Gen faced a challenging decision. Respecting his son's wish to prioritize the safety of their people, he chose not to pursue Sylvanas. The evacuation plan took shape, guiding everyone to safety through the hidden Undertaker's Pass, leading to Aldrich's Repose. The aftermath echoed with sacrifice, unity, and the resilience of a people determined to secure their future.
May the light bless the spirits of our ancestors, for they've chosen to allow my son to rest upon this holy ground. It is here, surrounded by the heroes and patriots of Gilneas, where he belongs.
You were a true man of the people, Liam. Unlike any royal I've ever met. We'll make them pay for this.
Gilneas will remember your courage forever, Liam.
We'll return, Liam. I swear this to you.
Upon reaching Kiel Harbor, a glimmer of hope emerged on the horizon. A fleet of Night Elven ships gracefully approached the coast. Once again, the mysterious allies from across the sea had arrived to extend a helping hand to Gen Greymane and his overwhelmed people. True to Ballistra's promise, the Night Elves not only brought ships but also presented an offer of sanctuary in their lands. Despite facing relentless assaults from the Forsaken and their Horde allies, the determined survivors secured the port. Every Gilnean who weathered the storm of adversity boarded the transport ships, while a resilient contingent led by Darius Crowley stayed behind to form the Gilneas Liberation Front. Admiral Nightwind steered the remaining survivors to safety at Ruttheron village in Darnassus. Fueled by the relentless curse and looming Forsaken threat, Gilneas found itself embraced by the Alliance once again. A profound debt of gratitude was owed to the Night Elves, whose intervention played a pivotal role in healing the minds of those ensnared by the Worgen curse. As the civilian populace sought refuge in Teldrassil, the Kaldorei generously granted asylum within the Howling Oak, a symbol grown by Night Elven druids from a seed originating in Gilneas. This oak stood not just as a testament to the hardships endured by the Gilneans since the kingdom's ruin, but also celebrated the remarkable resilience and accomplishments of their people in the face of adversity. After finding refuge in the embrace of Teldrassil's woods, the Gilneans settled into a rustic existence while a secluded clearing awaited those seeking the ritual of balance. The official embrace of Gilneas into the Alliance hung in the balance, contingent on the approval of other Alliance representatives. King Greymane stepped into the limelight during the welcoming banquet in Darnassus, acknowledging the grave error of isolating his kingdom behind walls, a costly mistake. Grateful for the Alliance's second chance, he expressed his heartfelt thanks. While the Alliance dignitaries appeared receptive to Greymane's apology, tensions escalated with the arrival of King Varian Wrynn, whose words hinted at Gilneas being seen as cowardly and weak. Despite the insults hurled at him and his people, King Greymane maintained his composure, attempting to convince the Stormwind King that Gilneas had undergone a transformation and was now poised to be a steadfast supporter of the Alliance. However, Varian distanced himself, nursing the bitterness stemming from Gilneas' perceived betrayal during the Third War's darkest hours. In the grand meeting between Gen Greymane and Gilneas' envoys and the Alliance delegates, a strategic decision was made to showcase Gilneas as a potent ally rather than a burden on the faction. The Gilnean military, standing tall with their king, paraded in synchronized formation, proudly brandishing the banner of Gilneas and playing their anthem. Despite Gilneas facing adversity, they deliberately matched the forces sent by the Stormwind army, capping off their display by orchestrating a transformation into formidable Worgen warriors. While the Alliance acknowledged the strengths and advantages brought by Gilneas, the King of Stormwind remained unyielding. He pointedly expressed his inability to trust or forgive Gilneas, dismissing them as fair-weather friends. This stark stance, despite the recognized benefits, sparked uproar at the summit and ultimately shattered any hope Gilneas harbored of rejoining the Alliance. During this time, and before the final battle in Ashenvale, Varian went through the ritual of balance as well to control his rage. Through those trials, Varian learned that he was Goldrin's champion, and finally got control of his rage to where he would work with Gen and the Gilneans. There is more to it, but I'll cover Varian in his own video in the future, but that's the very short version of it. During the conflict in Ashen Vale, as the Horde, led by Garrosh Hellscream and accompanied by formidable Magnetar, advanced into the region, the Gilnean forces rallied to the aid of King Rin. Together, bolstered by Worgen reinforcements and guided by Varian's leadership, they staged a decisive counterattack that shifted the tide of battle. Under Varian's command, the Alliance successfully repelled the invading army. In the aftermath, recognizing the valuable contribution of the Worgen, Varian advocated for a second Alliance summit. The proposal for the Worgen's induction into the Alliance was put to a vote and officially approved. Addressing the gathered leaders, King Varian acknowledged the rising threats challenging their hard-won peace. With the Worgen standing united with the Alliance, Varian expressed confidence that they would prevail honorably against any challenges that lay ahead. Now aligned with the Alliance, Lord Crowley and his steadfast Worgen warriors of the Gilneas Liberation Front reignited their conflict against the Forsaken, pushing deep into the northern reaches of Silverpine Forest. Their successful seizure of Pyrewood Village served as a strategic foothold, even though Sylvanas' forces later reclaimed it amidst tenacious resistance. Utilizing a gnomish submarine to break the Horde's blockade, the elite 7th Legion spearheaded a sweeping Alliance offensive aimed at retaking all of Lordaeron from the Forsaken, commencing with the liberation of Gilneas. The unified strength of the Alliance, bolstered by Gilnean and newfound Bloodfang Worgen allies, swiftly forced the Forsaken beyond the Greymane Wall. Despite initial success, the Horde regrouped in Silverpine, leading to Lord Crowley's surrender to Sylvanas when she held his daughter hostage, threatening her with a grim fate of undeath. This marked the termination of the Alliance offensive in Silverpine, while the Bloodfang pack extended their influence into the Hillsbrad foothills. Amidst the mass exodus, numerous Gilnean refugees sought refuge in the Blasted Lands, inspired by the dream of an idealistic druid named Marl Wormthorn. Upon their arrival, Wormthorn envisioned the healing of the tainted scar, attempting to restore it by birthing the great tree Maldraz through his druidic powers. Initially successful, the rejuvenated forest allowed the refugees to establish Surwick. However, this act also attracted the attention of lingering demons within the scar, seizing the opportunity to corrupt both the great tree and the Gilnean druid. The result was the birth of the malevolent tainted tree. At some point, a sizable fleet of Gilnean ships set sail for Surwick, carrying only civilians. Unfortunately, after a few days, a mysterious storm caused some ships to return to the shattered shore, revealing their unknown demise and the haunting presence of their drowned occupants along the coast. Now we move over to Kalimdor, where the Talon Branch pack found solace in Felwood, where they embarked on a journey to comprehend the intricacies of nature and maintain its delicate equilibrium. Their purpose extended beyond mere survival. They sought a new existence in this accursed land. Led by Den Mother Ulrika, the pack comprised Worgen with a lineage dating back to Valinda Starsong's initial summoning of the Worgen through the Scythe of Elune, making them Night Elven Worgen. Alongside them were Gilneans who endured the collapse of their kingdom. Together, they established Talon Branch Glade as their operational hub, with a dual mission to mend the corrupted forest and confront the demonic forces of the Burning Legion, all while thwarting the goblin lumber operations orchestrated by the Bilgewater cartel in the region. Simultaneously, a contingent of Gilneans under the leadership of Oliver Harris embarked on a journey to Raven Hill in Duskwood. Setting up camp, their focus shifted to devising a cure to aid the countless mindless Worgen wreaking havoc in the area. Atop Mount Hyjal, certain Gilnean Worgen fell victim to the corrupting clutches of the Twilight's Hammer, becoming enslaved as mindless beasts under their influence. While others aligned themselves with the noble cause of the Cenarian Circle, they embraced their role as guardians, taking on the responsibility of safeguarding Goldrin's sacred shrine. At some point, a black draconoid disguised as Lord Hiram Creed cunningly manipulated a group of Gilnean humans and Worgen known as the Black Howl. Acting in secrecy, Creed infused them with his draconic blood, enhancing their strength while unknowingly subjugating them to a gradual transformation into his unwilling minions. Rathian, on a mission to eradicate corrupted black dragons across Azeroth, dispatched a rogue champion to eliminate Creed. The demise of Creed marked a turning point, prompting both the Horde and Alliance to withdraw from Gilneas' mainland for reasons shrouded in mystery. Consequently, the epicenter of activity shifted to coastal regions, where the battle for Gilneas unfolded in relentless clashes between the Alliance and Horde forces. After toppling Garrosh Hellscream in the Siege of Orgrimmar, High King Varian Wrynn declared that the Alliance's next mission was to cleanse Gilneas and keep Sylvanas Windrunner in check. Now during the trial of Garrosh Hellscream, King Greymane took a bold stand, vetoing the entire proceeding. He accused the Horde leaders of complicity in their war chief's crime, highlighting the brutal actions against the people of Gilneas. Greymane insisted that all of them should face trial, pointing out that even figures like Sylvanas had initiated their own attacks. However, Terran Zu calmly rejected the proposal, citing the impracticality of such a lengthy process, especially considering the varying lifespans of those involved. During the Third Burning Legion invasion, the valiant Gilneas military took a stand in the epic battle for Broken Shore. Guided by King Greymane, the indomitable Gilneas brigade set up their main bastion, Greywatch, nestled in Stormheim. Their mission was to unearth the legendary Aegis of Agrimar scattered across the Broken Isles. As the brigade delved into their quest, a sinister revelation surfaced. The Forsaken harbored nefarious plans to unleash a plague upon Greywatch, reminiscent of the tragic fate that befell Gilneas. King Greymane rallied his forces to obliterate the plague caches and thwart the invasive legions under the cunning Sylvanas Windrunner. Following the battle, the Gilneas brigade fanned out across the Broken Isles, engaging in a fierce struggle for control of the Warden Towers against the formidable Queensguard. A relentless dance of power ensued as both factions vied for dominance. With the relocation of Dalaran to the Broken Isles, the once gleaming Silver Enclave underwent a transformation, emerging as the Greyfang Enclave. This newfound enclave, now a bastion for the Alliance within the floating city, stood under the watchful guardianship of Gilnean sentinels. As the curtains fell on the Argus campaign, a somber narrative unfolded for the kingdom, its identity now reduced to a sorrowful echo of wind, sorrow, and ruin. Gen Greymane, bearing witness to the aftermath, shared with Anduin the tragic tales of Gilneas and Stromgarde succumbing to the relentless grip of decay. Gilneas, once vibrant, now housed the Forsaken, while Stromgarde found itself besieged by a motley alliance of criminals, ogres, and trolls. The once proud realms now stood as haunting echoes of their former glory. In the throes of the War of the Thorns, that's the name of the war with Sylvanas burning down Teldrassil, Sylvanas sought to exploit the desolation of Gilneas as a catalyst within the Alliance after the fall of Teldrassil. Misjudging Gen's desire to reclaim his kingdom, a divide emerged between those advocating for the recovery of Teldrassil and those prioritizing the reclamation of Gilneas. Unbeknownst to Sylvanas, Gen, acknowledging a debt owed to the Night Elves, emphasized that Teldrassil must be reclaimed first, with Gilneas following suit. In response, King Anduin ordered constant portals from Darnassus to remain open in Stormwood City, welcoming an influx of Night Elven and Gilnean refugees. Queen Mia Greymane, a respected figure, played a crucial role in organizing the Gilnean evacuation from the Howling Oak to Stormwood City. All Gilnean refugees were safely relocated before the onset of the fire, settling around Olivia's Pond. As the Fourth War commenced, Gilneas actively participated in the battle for Lordaeron. The Bloodfang Pact securing Fenris Isle forced the Forsaken to reallocate their forces for evacuation across the lake after defeating Deathstalker Hayward. Simultaneously, Darius Crowley led an offensive into Hillsbrad Foothills, preparing an army to counter an imminent Forsaken attack on Gilneas. The 7th Legion under Captain Tobias Zarin besieged Shadowfang Keep, aiming to thwart Forsaken Apothecary's plans of unleashing a bioweapon upon Gilneas. The Horde, eyeing Stromgarde as a strategic launching point, maneuvered towards the Arathi Highlands, seeking control of Stromgarde to impede full alliance dominance over the Eastern Kingdoms. Now, in the aftermath of Stormwind's refusal to aid Darkshore, Gilneas chose to support the Kaldari instead. King Greymane dispatched a formidable force led by Lorna Crowley and Princess Tess Greymane as part of the army of the Black Moon. This gesture aimed not only to stand by their Night Elf allies, but also to repay them for their unwavering support to Gilneas. During the Battle of Dazar Alor, King Greymane led his Gilnean soldiers against Orc Grunts and Zandalari allies at the port of Zandalar. Gen, alongside Master Matthias Shaw, spearheaded the strike team against King Rastakhan. Subsequently, during the Battle at the Gates of Orgrimmar, High King Anduin Wrynn entrusted Gen and his troops with the mission to flank the Orcish city, leading to the successful capture of the Western Gate. In another development, the Night Elves of the Temple of Elune in Val'Sharah forged active trade connections with the neighboring Gilnean village of Bradensbrook. This exchange facilitated the shipment of supplies between the two communities via ships. In the aftermath of the Forsaken reclaiming the ruins of Lordaeron, Calia Menethil, a member of the Desolate Council, assured Alliance heroes that her foremost proposal to the Council would involve the withdrawal of their forces from Gilneas. King Greymane returned to Stormwind City, proclaiming the moment had arrived to reclaim Gilneas. However, during their absence, the Scarlet Crusaders, under the leadership of Inquisitor Fairbell, took control of the capital. transforming it into their stronghold after a defeat in Silverpine Forest against the Forsaken. Princess Tess Greymane, entrusted with command from Keel Harbor, orchestrated the efforts of Gilnean troops and their allies from the 7th Legion, despite resistance from the king. Tess sought support from unconventional sources such as Lillian Voss and Callia Menethil from the Desolate Council.
They are here to help us retake Gilneas, Father.
They are the reason we were driven out! Have you forgotten?
Again, it's Callia Menethil, not some mindless scourge. Let her speak.
The Forsaken know the Scarlet Crusade better than anyone, King Greymane. You have little reason to trust us, but I give you my word. As a Menethil, we only wish to return what rightfully belongs to you.
Tess, every time I look at them, I see your brother's face. I can't. I'm sorry. But perhaps you can show me the way.
Similar to the undead, the Scarlet Crusade branded the Worgen as cursed monsters and heretics to be purged from Azeroth. They received orders to exterminate all Worgen on sight, even resorting to exhuming bodies in Aldrich's repose to incinerate their bones and cleanse them in the light. This horrific act had to be stopped by any means necessary. The Scarlet Crusade wasn't going to get away with defiling the sacrifice of Gilneans made in their homeland. They had to be left to rest. While the Forsaken created a diversion, the Allied forces utilized Undertaker's pass to infiltrate the capital. After eliminating the most experienced Crusade forces, Tess swung open the gates of Greymane Court. Battles erupted across the capital, with the most intense clashes occurring in the Cathedral Quarter, where Gilneas confronted formidable zealots and their leader. The pivotal moment came with the defeat of Inquisitor Farabelle in Lightstone Cathedral. Gilneas was reclaimed by its people, and true to their word, the Forsaken withdrew. In the aftermath, King Gen engaged in a profound conversation with Princess Tess.
You're thinking of Liam again, aren't you?
You always could see right through me.
You never really healed after you lost him. After you lost Gilneas.
Tess,
I see you, Father. Always hiding from your pain. It's why you built that wall in the first place. And why you took Anduin under your wing. But I have always been here. For you. Even if you've never noticed.
I know. And I'm sorry. The world is changing, Tess. And as much as I try, I find it hard to change with it. But you have proven yourself 1,000 times over, my girl. And this kingdom now belongs to you.
Father, I...
You have always been what makes Gilneas truly special to me. And I should have told you that. Every day.
I wish I could take your pain away.
Only time will do that, my dear. But we have time now. Thanks to you.
After talking with Tess, Gen makes his way to Liam's grave, where he talks about his decision.
I don't know if you would recognize me, Liam. All these years, the lessons I've learned. The Alliance has always offered an outstretched hand. And there are days it feels right, and days I wonder, what if I had not built that wall? would Lordaeron still stand? Would you still be? But listen to me. The ruminations of an old man. You did not live long enough to regret, as I do. Your sister will lead the kingdom now. No one could be more proud of her than your mother and I. Except, perhaps, you. Rest well, my son. Gilneas is in the best of hands.
Now I figured I'd talk about the Worgens, and there might be a couple places where I repeat myself a little bit from before, but I tried to make sure it wasn't much. In the ancient days, within the fierce conflict between Night Elves and demonic satyrs in Kalimdor, a group of druids delved into a formidable, albeit challenging, shape that epitomized the ferocity of the wolf ancient Goldrin. Guided by R'hllor Fangfire, these druids of the pack aspired to reign in the untamed fury embedded in their chosen form. In pursuit of control, they willingly subjected themselves to the arcane energies of the Scythe of Elune, a mystical relic forged from Goldrin's Fang and the Staff of Elune. However, instead of quelling the druid's fury, the weapon wrought a profound transformation upon R'hllor and his followers, morphing them into Worgen, savage humanoids ensnared by their own primal instincts. Engulfed in an uncontrollable rage, R'hllor's druids, now Worgen, recklessly wreaked havoc on both ally and adversary in their clash with the satyrs. Night Elves wounded by these unruly creatures fell prey to a relentless curse, compelling them to transform into Worgen themselves. Striving to halt the rampant spread of the affliction, Archdruid Malfurion Stormrage sorrowfully banished the Worgen into the Emerald Dream, where they would slumber peacefully for all eternity. Throughout the passing years, the Scythe of Elune found refuge in Ashenvale, fading into obscurity along with the Druids of the Scythe, the original Worgen. Their existence became a mere whisper in the books of history, with Fandral Staghelm's journal serving as the lone remnant of their forgotten tale. Before the resurgence, the Wolfmen lingered in human folklore as Worgen, existing only in hushed tales and fanciful stories of old. Farmers would regale their children with myths of these beastly wolfmen prowling the fields and marshes beyond the village confines. In his scholarly pursuits, the mage Yor glimpsed the Worgen in a realm he described as a nightmarish abyss. Despite his desire to validate the reality, he cautioned against summoning these mysterious beings. While many remained dormant, certain Kaldorei Worgen awakened and traversed the dream realm after their banishment, while others delved into the shadows in the period preceding their resurgence. As discussed before, Erigol brought the Worgen to Azeroth to help Gilneas fight the Scourge. But after the Worgen were done with the Scourge, they turned their sights on the Gilnean soldiers. Following the Scourge's retreat, Archmage Erigol committed an act of betrayal against his nation, pledging allegiance to Alpha Prime and developing a fervent loyalty to the Worgen. Gilnean soldiers bitten by the Worgen found themselves taken within the protective walls, where upon succumbing to the curse, they were relentlessly hunted and killed, yet eradication proved elusive. Alpha Prime, the mastermind behind the Worgen in Silverpine Forest, held the once mighty Arugel under his spell, his mind consumed by madness. Under the leadership of Alpha Prime and the assistance of the bewitched Archmage Erigol, the Worgen in Silverpine launched a relentless siege on Baron Silverlane's keep. Perched above the quaint Pyrewood village, the keep succumbed to darkness, evolving into the notorious Shadowfang Keep. It was here that Alpha Prime and Erigol established the Wolf Cult, embarking on a quest to locate the elusive Scythe of Elune. The Wolf Cult actively recruited humans eager to embrace the Worgen transformation, and the curse swiftly spread to the human populace. Ordinary men and women found themselves transformed into voracious, feral beings impervious to the grip of undeath. Erigol, with his arcane prowess, cursed the villagers of Pyrewood, compelling them to morph into Worgen as night fell. Those aligned with Alpha Prime formed the Bloodfang Pack. Erigol's followers became the Shadowfang Pack, and those bound to the nightly Worgen appearance became the Moonrage Pack. Today I want to talk about Lordaeron, the city that fell to Arthas Menethil and then later on became the Undercity. Now, one interesting thing that I did find while looking into this was how they labeled the Eastern Kingdoms much further back. They labeled it as the northern part was Lordaeron, just all of it was Lordaeron, the middle part was Khazmodan, and then the bottom part was Azeroth. So I thought that was kind of interesting. I don't know when they decided to change the southern part from Azeroth to just naming the entire planet Azeroth. But either way, I thought it was interesting to know, and I thought you may want to know too. Let's get into it. In the ancient halls of Ulduar, the Titanic Watcher known as Loken fell prey to corruption. Tyr, another Titan Watcher, along with his allies, fled with the Discs of Norgannon to uncover the depth of Loken's treachery, making their escape to the south. It is worth noting that at this point in the story, Kalimdor was one big landmass, so it hasn't been separated by the Sundering yet until later on at the end of the War of the Ancients. Upon realizing the theft, Loken unleashed a horde of monstrous creatures in pursuit of Tyr's party. The Cathraxi generals Zakaj and Cathix were determined to ensure that Tyr didn't succeed. The conflict culminated in the death of Tyr and Zakaj, while the injured Cathix retreated to the west. The battleground was henceforth known as Tyr's Fall, or Tyr's Fall in the Vrykul language. Tyr and his adversary were buried where they fell, with Tyr's enormous silver hand marking his grave as a tribute to his heroic sacrifice. Now, I did try to actually find Tyr's hand in the game, but I couldn't locate it. I looked online just to see if I was just being stupid. But from what I read, Galakrond had eaten it in the battle with the Aspects and Tyr fighting Galakrond, which is the big giant dragon in the past. But after that, I think someone had it, but I don't think it's actually in-game. If it is, I'm not sure where it's at. So maybe you'll stumble upon it one day. Or maybe they might add it in the future. But either way, just thought I'd let you know. The peaceful Vrykul who had accompanied the Keepers chose to honor Tyr further by settling near the battlefield and safeguarding the tomb of Tyr. Their allies respected this decision, while the other Watchers and their creations continued their journey south. As the years passed, Tyr's Fall became a legendary place among the Vrykul of northern Kalimdor. When King Ymiron ordered the extermination of all infants afflicted by the Curse of Flesh, the Vrykul and their offspring sought refuge in Tyr's Fall glades. Here, they evolved into a new species known as humans. The remaining Vrykul from Tyr's group formed the Tyr's Guard, and as they realized their mortality, they welcomed the humans into their order. The humans who settled here became known as the Tyr's Fall tribe, planting the seeds for what would eventually become the Kingdom of Lordaeron. In the heartland of Tyr's Fall, a tribe of humans thrived under the leadership of the valiant Lordaeron. These people, more cultured than their mountain-dwelling counterparts, were deeply spiritual, performing sacred rituals at various shrines scattered across the region. The silver hand of Tyr was held in high esteem, its image adorning their pendants. This tribe was the only force capable of thwarting Thoradin's ambition of uniting humanity. Unlike the Alteraci, the Tyr's Fall humans were not easily swayed by brute force. To earn their allegiance, Thoradin had to respect and adopt their religious customs. The would-be king and his guards journeyed to Tyr's Fall's sacred sites, partaking in their rituals, including the wearing of the silver hand pendant. At the journey's end, Thoradin met with Lordaeron, the tribe's leader. He vowed to embrace the religious practices and propagate them among the Arathi if they joined him. To symbolize this pact, Thoradin drew his own blood with his sword, Stromkar, and mixed it with the soil of Tyr's Fall glades, declaring, "Between our people, let this be the only blood we spill." With this, the Tyr's Fall humans pledged their loyalty to Thoradin, with Lordaeron becoming one of his generals. Lordaeron's sister, Mereldar, was among the first human followers of the Holy Light, which was later adopted by the Arathi, leading to the establishment of the Church of the Holy Light. During the climactic moments of the Troll Wars, as King Thoradin and his forces retreated to Alterac Fortress, the Amani Trolls threatened to outflank and overrun Arathor's armies. To prevent this catastrophe, General Lordaeron and his warriors held the line, sacrificing their lives but securing victory for Arathor and Quel'Thalas. In the aftermath, many of Arathor's soldiers settled in the fertile lands of Tyr's Fall, where they established a stronghold and named it Lordaeron, in honor of Lordaeron. As time passed, rivalries among the kingdoms grew. Before the arrival of the Orcs, the human kingdoms of Lordaeron faced internal strife and political games. During a period of relative peace, villages quarreled, kingdoms spied on each other, and trade flourished with dwarves, gnomes, and high elves. Some nations, like Lordaeron, emerged as regional leaders, meditating disputes and maintaining order with their formidable militaries. Others focused on defending themselves from the age-old rivals. In the throes of the First War, King Lane of Stormwind, in a desperate plea for aid, sent envoys to the neighboring human realms, bearing ominous tales of a strange, formidable race with green skin. Yet his pleas fell on deaf ears, as the tales were dismissed as mere fabrications. Lordaeron, a kingdom known for its benevolence, was expected to lend a hand. However, a cunning ruse by Deathwing, who masqueraded as a noble from Stormwind, led them to believe that the so-called invaders were merely disgruntled citizens in revolt. Consequently, Lordaeron offered nothing more than courteous wishes for Lane's predicament. In the aftermath of the Dark Portal's opening and the conclusion of the First War, the realm of Stormwind succumbed to the onslaught of the Orcish horde, with the dwarven territory of Khazad-dûm soon following suit. Fleeing the devastation, refugees from Stormwind under the guidance of Lord Anduin Lothar sought sanctuary across the sea on the southern shores of the continent of Lordaeron. Here, Lothar and the youthful Turalyon rallied the leaders of the human nations, the displaced dwarves of Ironforge, the gnomes of Gnomeregan, and the noble high elves of Quel'Thalas, to unite in the alliance of Lordaeron. Under the stewardship of King Tyrannus and Lord Lothar, the alliance triumphed in the Second War, driving the horde back to the Dark Portal and obliterating the gateway to the Orcs' homeland. However, Lothar's fall during the assault on Blackrock Spire led to political fractures within the alliance. The primary point of contention was a tax imposed by King Tyrannus to fund the Orc internment camps. Despite Lordaeron's efforts to maintain its central role, several nations withdrew their support from the alliance. Only Stormwind remained steadfast in its commitment to the alliance, though the geographical distance between Stormwind and Lordaeron rendered their alliance somewhat symbolic. After the war, many Stormwind refugees chose to remain in Lordaeron. Following the Second War, Lordaeron established a military outpost along the fringes of the Alterac Mountains. This outpost was later targeted by the Horde of Draenor in a bid to reclaim the Book of Medivh from the Alteraci. The kingdom subsequently annexed at least part of the Alterac Mountains. As the Third War loomed, Arthas Menethil journeyed through the King's Road towards Strombrad, with the local populace recognizing him as their lord and rallying to Lordaeron's cause. In the wake of prolonged discussions regarding the confinement of the Orcs, a sinister group known as the Cult of the Damned, led by the ominous Kel'Thuzad, surfaced. Concurrently, a plague began to ravage the northern regions of Lordaeron. As the plague spread, it left a trail of destruction, with towns and cities succumbing to the scourge, including the significant locations of Anderhall and Stratholme. Following the cleansing of Stratholme, a group of former paladins, known as Death Lords, replicated this horrific act across numerous cities in Lordaeron. Amidst the turmoil and suffering, even some members of the clergy lost their connection to the Holy Light. The final blow came with the corruption of Prince Arthas Menethil, the heir to the throne of Lordaeron. The capital city fell under his reign of terror, with his captains, Felric and Marwyn, orchestrating the massacre of this atrocity. In a cruel twist of fate, Lordaeron was left in ruins, with refugees fleeing to Khazad-dûm and the southern eastern kingdoms. Many others sought refuge in Kalimdor with Jaina Proudmoore, while remnants of the Lordaeron armies remained behind. The Scourge, led by the now King Arthas, swept across Lordaeron, overpowering the combined forces of neighboring human and dwarven nations, and even the elven kingdoms of Quel'Thalas. A civil war ensued between Arthas' forces, the remaining Dreadlords, and the Free Undead, later known as the Forsaken, led by Sylvanas Windrunner. As Arthas was summoned to Northrend to defeat the Lich King, Windrunner's forces, with the help of the traitorous Dreadlord Varimathras and the remaining Alliance resistance forces under Grand Marshal Othmar Garithos, claimed victory. However, Sylvanas betrayed her Alliance allies, ordering the slaughter of the remaining resistance forces and claiming the ruined former capital of Lordaeron, now known as the Ruins of Lordaeron, as their own. Some refugees from Lordaeron managed to reach Stormwind City. It is believed by Matthias Shaw and Flynn Fairwind that these refugees, in an attempt to honor their fallen king, buried the crown of Tyrus Menethil II in an unmarked grave at the lighthouse in Stormwind Harbor. In the aftermath of Lordaeron's downfall, the once unified kingdom fragmented into four main factions: the loyal remnants of Lordaeron, the zealous Scarlet Crusade, the undead Forsaken, and the righteous Argent Dawn. The Loyalists, primarily located in southern Lordaeron, held steadfast to their Alliance allegiance. Their key settlements were South Shore, a vital port, and the prosperous Hillsbrad Fields. Despite the looming threats, they found allies in the Stormpike Guard, the magically fortified Dalaran, and the Gilnean towns of Pyrewood Village and Amber Mill. However, the curse of the worgen that plagued Pyrewood Village cast a shadow over their alliance. The Wildhammer dwarves of the hinterlands and the high elves of Quel'Danil Lodge also lent their support, while the alliance maintained a foothold in the Plaguelands through Chillwind Camp. The Scarlet Crusade, driven by an intense fear of the undead, held territories scattered across northern Lordaeron. Their paranoia led them to attack almost anyone on sight, making them a formidable force. Their strongholds included the Scarlet Monastery in Tirisfal Glades, Hearthglen in the western Plaguelands, and Tyr's Hand in the eastern Plaguelands. The Argent Dawn, a splinter group from the Scarlet Crusade, held a more balanced approach to the war against the Scourge. Their main base was at Light's Hope Chapel, and they welcomed anyone willing to aid their cause, including members of the Horde and the Forsaken. The Forsaken claimed the heart of the Old Kingdom. They established their base in the ruins of Lordaeron and the Undercity beneath it, controlling much of the Tirisfal Glades in towns like Brill and Deathnell. Other factions also staked their claims on Lordaeron's territories. The Syndicate, seeking revenge for Lordaeron's role in Alterax's downfall, seized Durnhold Keep, while the Ravenhold assassins tried to curb their power. The Undead Scourge, however, remained the dominant force, controlling key areas like Stratholme, Anderhall, and Scholomance. The Cataclysm brought about a seismic shift in the landscape of Lordaeron. The Forsaken tightened their hold on Silverpine Forest and Hillsbrad Foothills, seizing control of Pyrewood, Ambermill, Hillsbrad Fields, and South Shore. They also launched an assault on the Alliance at the hills overlooking Hillsbrad and Anderhall in the western Plaguelands. The Forsaken's power was evident in Tirisfal Glades, with Brill being reconstructed in their unique architectural style. Their victories against the Alliance were significant, with the exception of the Wildhammer clan and Quel'Danil Lodge. The shift in power effectively dismantled the Alliance's control over Lordaeron. The destruction of South Shore and Hillsbrad Fields forced many survivors to retreat to Fenris Isle, where they made a final stand. However, they were eventually defeated, and the Alliance's presence in Lordaeron was reduced to Chillwind Camp, Airy Peak, Quel'Danil Lodge, and the Stormpikes. Meanwhile, the Argent Dawn transformed into the Argent Crusade during the war with the Lich King. They controlled large areas of land in the western Plaguelands, including Hearthglen and several farmsteads. They also took control of the towers scattered across the eastern Plaguelands, reinforcing Light's Hope and eventually conquering the city of Tyr's Hand. Despite their neutrality, the Argents became the closest representation of the living in Lordaeron following the Forsaken's victories. The Scarlet Crusade's influence was significantly reduced, with most of their strongholds being taken over by either the Forsaken or the Argent Crusade. The Syndicate was expelled from Durnhold Keep but remained active in Stranbrad. The Scourge, a faction of the Undead, suffered greatly following the Cataclysm. They lost most of their territories outside the Eastern Plaguelands, where they maintained a strong presence. However, their threat was effectively reduced to a mere nuisance in Tirisfal Glades. The Scourge was completely removed from Silverpine Forest after losing control of Fenris Keep. Now we move on to Battle for Azeroth, which is the most recent big involvement with Lordaeron, barring any future involvement that we have. The Alliance, spearheaded by Anduin Wrynn and Genn Greymane, launched a daring campaign to reclaim the capital of Lordaeron in the battle for Lordaeron, a direct response to the burning of Teldrassil. Despite their efforts, the capital was left in ruins, tainted and unoccupied. The Alliance and Horde continued to clash across the lands once under Forsaken rule, each striving to secure control over the remaining territories of Lordaeron. The Fourth War concluded with a fragile truce between the two factions. Yet the Alliance succeeded in retaking South Shore. The neighboring Gilneans also regained control over their former strongholds of Shadowfang Keep and Fenris Keep, under the leadership of the Bloodfang Pack. However, Tirisfal Glades remained under the control of the Forsaken. And it does seem like they're going to do more with Lordaeron, whether it's rebuilding the city or something to that extent, but with the Blight being cleared after doing the Undead quest, and then we have the Heritage Armor quest for the Undead, it would appear that we're going to have more going on for Lordaeron, which is very exciting. It'd be really cool to have it be rebuilt, since we've never actually seen it in-game rebuilt and get to explore it, which I'm really looking forward to if that does happen. The Night Elves, once immortal beings, were thrust into a mortal existence, a reality that was far from easy to accept. The harsh realities of aging, disease, and frailty were alien concepts to them, and many struggled to adapt. In a desperate bid to reclaim their lost immortality, a group of rebellious druids hatched a plan. They sought to plant a unique tree, one that would bridge the gap between their spirits and the eternal realm. With the absence of Malfurion Stormrage, who at the time had fallen into a comatose state while in the Emerald Dream, thus not letting him wake up for many years later until after the Cataclysm. The mantle of leadership fell upon Fandral Staghelm. He was the driving force behind the desire to plant this new world tree. In a blink of an eye, Staghelm and his druidic companions had planted the majestic tree, Teldrassil, off the tempestuous northern shores of Kalimdor. Under their diligent care, the tree grew at an astonishing rate, its top piercing the clouds. Nestled among the twilight boughs of this gigantic tree, the awe-inspiring city of Darnassus took root. The city stands as a testament to the resilience and survival of the Night Elven race. This tale is a testament to their determination and their will to survive. Even though they made Teldrassil, it did not grant them back their immortality. That ability came from Nosdormu blessing Nordrassil, which was the original tree that granted them their immortality, which sat atop Mount Hyjal. This city, brimming with druids, hunters, and warriors, is a harmonious blend of wooden lodges and carefully nurtured groves. The Temple of the Moon, a radiant symbol of hope, towers above the treetops, accompanied by the Grand Hall of Justice, the gathering place for the ever-watchful sentinels. Under the wise leadership of High Priestess Tyrande Whisperwind, Darnassus stands as a serene tribute to the Night Elves' reverence for nature. Darnassus is a city that dances to the rhythm of the natural world. It is built along the banks of a vast lake, with elegant bridges arching over its shimmering waters. The city's pathways are carpeted with the fallen leaves of the surrounding forests, adding to its tranquil charm. In the aftermath of the Third War, Darnassus emerged as the new capital of the Night Elves. They allied with the Alliance to fend off the orcs' defilement of their forests. Despite their kinship with the Druids, they did not take lightly to their cousins, the Tauren, joining the Horde. The city can be accessed through a portal located in Rut Theron village, and the same portal can be used for the return journey. Darnassus is home to notable figures such as Fandral Staghelm, who sends adventurers on various quests, and Tyrande Whisperwind, the official leader of their society. The city is an exclusive territory of the Alliance. The Argent Dawn Embassy also finds its home here. After a long absence in the Emerald Dream, Malfurion made a triumphant return. He played a crucial role in the capture of Fandral, who had been driven to madness by the sinister Lord Xavius, leading to the corruption of Teldrassil. Malfurion, along with a group of dedicated druids and the combined might of Alexstrasza and Ysera, managed to cleanse and bless the tree. Now, Archdruid Stormrage stands proudly in the Temple of the Moon, side by side with his cherished one. As refugees from Gilneas, both Worgen and humans started to pour in, a unique solution was found. A seed, carefully selected from Gilneas, was planted and nurtured. The seed grew into the magnificent Howling Oak, providing a sanctuary for these newcomers. Set in the aftermath of the Cataclysm, Tyrande and Malfurion convened a crucial summit near Darnassus. The agenda? To consider the inclusion of the noble Worgen of Gilneas into the Alliance. However, the path to unity was not smooth. King Varian Wrynn of Stormwind held a deep-seated grudge against Genn Greymane, the ruler of Gilneas, for his past actions of isolation. This resentment threatened not just the summit, but the very fabric of the Alliance. But the discord did not end there. Darnassus, once a haven for the immortal Night Elves, was now a place of unease as they grappled with the reality of aging and mortality. The reintroduction of the Highborn, the former elite of Night Elf society, only added fuel to the fire. The Highborn's past misuse of magic, which led to catastrophic consequences, was a wound that many Night Elves found hard to forgive. The discovery of a slain Highborn on the outskirts of Darnassus set off a chain of events. Malfurion and Tyrande, in a bid to prevent further unrest, appointed the skilled and cunning warden, Maiev Shadowsong, to investigate. Maiev's brother, Gerard Shadowsong, also returned, bringing his ailing wife in hopes of finding a cure. As the story unfolds, Malfurion works tirelessly to bridge the gap between Varian and Genn. After the dust of the Ashenvale battle settles, the identity of the Highborn murderer comes to light. The Alliance, having weathered the storm, votes to welcome Gilneas back into its fold. Thanks to the diligent efforts of Agent Connolly, the Alliance managed to outsmart the Horde. The Night Elf Sentinels, with their keen senses and unparalleled tracking skills, discovered a hidden crypt and secured the Divine Bell, a powerful artifact. This victory was made possible by the brave sacrifice of Sarana Skyglaive. However, their triumph was short-lived. A cunning agent of the Sunreaver, working for the Horde, managed to infiltrate the city under the guise of neutrality granted by the Curantor. He located the bell within the serene Cenarian Enclave and whisked it away to Silvermoon using a teleportation spell. Upon learning of the theft, Jaina Proudmoore traced the magical residue left by the teleportation spell to the city's exit. There, she discovered a portal leading to Dalaran. Realizing the gravity of the situation, she knew immediate action was necessary. This marked the beginning of the Purge of Dalaran, which was a civil war within the Curantor that took place as part of the Alliance Horde War on Pandaria. We now approach the most infamous event in Darnassus history, the burning of Teldrassil. Officially known as the War of the Thorns, this monumental event warrants its own dedicated discussion. The climax of this war was marked by Sylvanas' strategic decision to decimate the Night Elves by setting their home ablaze. The resulting loss of life was staggering, and the pain experienced by the surviving Night Elves was profound. Tyranda's anger was palpable and immense.
Come then, show me Elune's wrath.
Elune gave me her strength. The wrath is mine alone!
This unforgettable scene is likely etched in the memory of any Warcraft enthusiast. For me, Darnassus held a special place as my favorite city, a place I relished returning to and exploring. Although we can revisit it through the Bronze Dragons, the sight of its charred remains is heart-wrenching. During the burning, adventurers are tasked with a rescue mission, striving to save as many inhabitants as possible. I recall embarking on this with a fierce determination to save as many lives as I could, despite the harsh reality that not everyone could be saved. And that's going to do it for this one, but hopefully you did enjoy. If you did make it this far, maybe consider liking and subscribing. It really helps the channel out. And let me know down below if you also have a favorite capital city to visit. I'm curious how many other people enjoyed Darnassus as much as I do. Alrighty, I'll see you in the next one. Take care of yourself.